because I'm sick and tired of being a freaking slave to the drug.
Take and imagine if when you're 24, instead of them handing you that pill, you got to experience what you've had with me.
Right.
What do you think would have happened?
I never would have been on any medication.
I'd experienced trauma in my young childhood, and I married a narcissist. We needed to look at why did I marry someone who's so cruel to me?
Mm-hmm.
We need to look at, why do I have no self-esteem? What happened to you is not who you are. And I'm just going to plug this in right now. That's what this teaches. Name the medication. I tried it. I don't know, start naming them. But to me, the worst were Effexor and Boost Bar. The worst.
I took Effexor. The doctor put me on it when I was 24. I was having a hard time at work. I was really sad about it. It was anxiety low. He goes, here, take this short-term temporary. You'll feel better.
So hold on.
That was Effexor.
So you're having a little stress at work and you go in and they say, here, take some Effexor. Temporarily is what they said.
You'll feel better.
Did they offer to you coaching, counseling?
No.
Some cognitive behavioral therapy? Any sort of nothing? Just here, take this.
Yes. It was
you did.
And I trusted this
society has learned, we go to doctors, we trust them.
Mm-hmm.
But what we have to understand about doctors is, and I don't think this is the doctor's problem, it's the whole system's problem.
Mm-hmm.
You go to a doctor because they're supposed to help to relieve you. They want to relieve us of our pain. We're going to them, help relieve this pain I'm having, whether it's, mental, emotional, physical. And so I think that's where the idea of taking a pill took root, because, well, I want to help this person right now, rather than the other option of really equipping the person with maybe some mindset strategies,
right,
some lifestyle changes, maybe even looking at your career and adjusting that. Like, those is my prayer, is the direction we'll go with people, rather than here, take this pill. Because then from age 24, so what happened? How long were you on Effexor?
Many, many years.
So this temporary fix was many years.
Right. And I did notice a change in my mood. It helped, going through an investigation, your first one, and not ever being, I was still very young and new to my career. And that was big it was very stressful. And I did notice that it made things a little easier to cope with. I never had any follow-ups with him about how are you feeling? How's this medication doing? 5 to 8 years maybe that I took it, maybe even longer. So after my accident or an accident is when I was switched over Cymbalta for 20 plus years, and it rules your world. If you miss a dose or take it 2 hours.
That.
What do you mean?
Rules your world. I want people to understand what it's like to be on something. And I'll share my story too.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing, high compassion for anyone who feels like they need to be on a medication right now to get them through. But unfortunately, what ends up happening is people then are on them for, like you just said, 20 years. So talk with us about, what do you mean rules my world?
So I've been taking medication now for 26, 27 years. Never had any issues when I was younger, right? But now I'm taking this medication that was supposed to be short-term temporary in my early 20s. When I tried to stop taking that voluntarily, not thinking I needed to be on that because I was not going through that struggle like I was when I was first prescribed that, coming off of that, or trying to come off of that in itself, is a huge challenge. And when I say rule my world, it's like, if you don't take it, your body starts going through DTs or withdrawals in a very short period of time. So by me not taking that Effexor when I didn't want to take it, I started going through withdrawals. And so when I say it rules your life, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to take this drug anymore, but I physically can't just stop taking it because it just, what it does to the body and to the mind. You physically feel it. You're highly emotional. You just feel like you want to die.
It's hard to describe it. It's just a really, really bad feeling.
It is. And not being
and even just control. When they wean you, that's super painful. They act like it's willy-nilly. I mean, here, take this temporarily. Effexor is not something you take temporarily. I would say most all of them are not something you can take temporarily. Even Xanax, I grew an addiction to that because I became addicted to the second I started to feel bad. I could pop a Xanax and feel better within a few minutes. So I had complete reliance upon a little white pill,
right?
My own being, my own mind, my own heart, my own spirit, believing that I could be with it, sit with it, and be present with it. And over time, I could overcome, which I have. So I've been completely clear of psych meds for 13 years. But prior to that, they ruled my world. They ruled my life. I had a little pill in my pocket everywhere I went. This is why I want to talk to people about, given what you've learned with me, coaching with me, take and imagine if when you're 24, instead of them handing you that pill, you got to experience what you've had with me.
Right.
What do you think would have happened?
I never would have been on any medication or one for any extended period of time. And the unfortunate thing is, back then, you didn't really hear about coaches and you didn't hear about alternative forms of therapy. You know, I saw a therapist. They don't care. They're a soundboard. And the therapist I saw never gave me or offered CBT, not CBD, CBT.
Cognitive behavioral therapy.
Right. Never offered it, suggested it, anything. And so I always felt leaving very empty, very void, like that was a waste of time, but it's what I'm supposed to do. And so, but had I had back then what you have offered me now, nope, I wouldn't have been on medication. I would have never, and I wouldn't be in this position, but I am. And I honestly believe too, going back to us taking these medications, I know it has changed the genetic or the chemical makeup, whatever you want to call it, of my brain.
It did absolutely change the chemical makeup of your brain, but you can change the chemical makeup of your brain again. How is it that I did it? Childhood trauma, suicidal ideation for, honestly, it felt like my lifetime. Up until the age of 40. Suicidal ideation every day, self-loathing.
Yes.
So because of the trauma that happened, and they know that especially in the first 7 years of life, if any sort of trauma happens to you, any sort of abuse, it is really difficult to undo that because that is when your brain is developing. I'm here to tell you that I've changed my template. How could I be so dependent on these drugs and have dealt with severe depression, severe anxiety where I don't want to leave the house? And I've been drug-free for 13 years. If it was true that you could not heal yourself, then I would still be on medication. And I'm not. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of support. But to be drug-free is the best feeling ever. It's very upsetting to me that society has bought into if you feel depression, which is depress, which actually means to press down your feelings, that a pill should remedy that. No, go see a passion coach to have something to get excited about, help you get excited about something, to explore, to get curious. To take a pill because you received or you experienced abandonment or rejection as a kid, to take a pill for that. You know what that person needs? Tons of love and support.
Right.
And it starts with learning how to give it to yourself, because your upbringing didn't provide that in a way that you saw or needed.
Mhm.
Why do we think a pill should take care of that? It's
Well, the
so
unfortunate,
upsetting.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
We're just going to say from a medical standpoint, these doctors are so manipulated and persuaded by big pharma, if that makes sense. And
Absolutely. It's very lucrative.
exactly, whether it be medication A, medication B, whatever it is, they're highly influenced. B, they're overworked. There aren't enough decent doctors. And so the quickest way to help this person feel better, I'm just going to slap a band-aid on what they're experiencing and give them this pill that will make them feel better. And the unfortunate thing, it's an assembly line. I understand how people fall through the cracks because there's a lack of education and care on a lot of these doctors who are prescribing this medication, which is frustrating because we go to these doctors trusting them.
I think if anything, this is a really good story for taking control of your own health. I mean, I have a very delicate constitution. I'm vegan, but not only am I vegan, like my body doesn't do caffeine, alcohol, chemicals.
Lemon, no lemon.
I mean, I have to really become my own doctor and listen to my body. And we do have that divine knowing within us. We can tap into that. We don't have to buy the story that someone else knows better than we do.
Right.
And yes, I'm a proponent of a mixture of Western medicine and these things, these more alternative, but to really tap into yourself. And so, I mean, I just want to mention my story. I started having panic attacks, probably my first one when I was 22 or 23. And there was no discussion of anything but, here, take this pill.
Really?
Yeah, again, at such a young age. And I want to describe to you, so I had no self-esteem. I'd experienced trauma in my young childhood, and I married a narcissist. So I was young married because I thought that marriage would finally give me that love I was always longing for. So talk about adverse childhood events. They're called ACEs. And here's a pill. A pill is not going to take care of my ACEs. We need to look at, why did I marry someone who's so cruel to me?
Mm-hmm.
We need to look at, why do I feel no self-love? Why do I have no self-esteem?
Mm-hmm.
Look at some of that, and then have an empowered message that says, actually, you know what? Those are just the wounds, and you're believing that you're like blending what happened to you with who you are. What happened to you is not who you are. And I'm just going to plug this in right now. That's what this teaches. What happened to you is not who you are, but your ego wants you to believe that's who you are. And so if you believe that's who you are, then of course you have to take a pill. But it's a process when you start learning, as you know, when you learn that I actually have a higher self and that's actually who I truly am. I'm not what happened to me.
Right.
Then what message are you telling your entire brain, every cell in your body? What are you telling yourself when you go, no, I've got a higher self? What's the message to the brain? What are you teaching your entire system?
You mean when we're going through the process?
When you step into your higher self and you start practicing the fact that I am not what happened to me.
It's when I'm stepping into my higher self, loving myself and acknowledging what I call my lower self, my roommates in my case, or this ego, that I'm in control. My higher self is in control. I see you, I hear you, I acknowledge you, but I've got this. I'm strong enough. I've got this. Learning to be patient with yourself and forgiving with yourself, and knowing that even though you were influenced in your younger years, that does not have to rule your life the rest of your life. It's taught me to be a lot more patient with myself and accept me for who I am. Just basically loving myself. I'm not going to lie, has been one of my biggest challenges my whole life. I can love others. I can love the pee out of everybody else. But when it comes to taking care of loving myself, I've always struggled with that. But you have taught me, I didn't know anything about being in my higher self or my ego, or I totally thought ego was something else. But
Ego's actually just wounded and scared and very identified with the body. That's just this
yeah,
ego to help everyone out there understand what we're talking about.
right. And it's not until, you created that awareness in me, and it all makes absolute perfect sense. And no, taking a drug does not help you get down to the root of the issue. It does not. It might make it easier, but you're simply still not dealing with the root or the cause of why you're depressed, why you have anxiety, why you feel the way you do, the negative way you do about yourself. Medication does not fix that. It doesn't. It just puts a Band-Aid on it. It's just a cover up. But like I said, you taught me how to dig deep within, albeit the hardest thing I've ever done, but I know that I deserve it because I'm sick and tired of being a freaking slave to the drug.
I really love that you're calling it a slave to the drug. And at this point, I want to be real about side effects, because again, we think we can just take this drug and there's no problem. But I want to talk about the fact that you can be constipated from these drugs. You can feel it kind of numbs you. It
Like a
numbs
zombie. You kind of feel like you're walking around in a daze half the time.
It can affect you sexually. That's a big one.
That's huge. Weight is also a big thing. The brain fog, like we said.
So my question is it worth it? Okay, these are just a few of the things we're talking about. And then not only that, but brain, it is rearranging your brain. Maybe you need to infuse more fun in your life. Maybe you need to get that coaching or counseling. Of course, I'm a fan of the coaching. And
me too.
Shift your lifestyle. Shift your mindset. That's very powerful. There's no pill as powerful as a shift in your mindset. There's no pill that is stronger than that. There's no pill that's stronger than your higher self, actually. Your higher self is pure love, and pure love can heal anything, absolutely anything, and can manage anything and look anything. And yes, it takes time to understand that. And but honestly, not that much time. It's not when you look at it. Time. No. I mean, I've had people tell me I've had coaching or counseling for 20 years, and you've done more with me in 3 months. Right. So it really doesn't have to take that much time.
The longer you wait in life, the harder, in my opinion, it's going to be. The more challenging it's going to be, because you have more stuff to, shall we say, unpack. And I came to you with suitcases the size of a U-Haul truck. I'm not lying. But I didn't really realize that until we started unpacking that truck, for lack of a better term. Some people have little carry-ons. That's great. Some people have a big old 28-inch Pullman suitcase, and some people come with a U-Haul moving truck. And that was me. And I'm okay with that. I'm proud of myself for taking that step in an effort to try and understand myself better.
So when you say, like, tell everyone, how soon into it did you start to notice yourself shifting and even feeling better? Like, again, we know this is a journey, but just how soon into it were you like, wow, this is really working?
I felt like I was making progress after the first time I met you. I knew I was in the right place. There's a lot of stuff that you as a coach, it's necessary. Looking back now, I understand that there's a lot of foundation that has to be laid before you can just jump right in and solve it. You know, so many of us think, oh, I'm going to therapy, I'm going to coaching, it's going to be fixed in 2 sessions. No, it doesn't work that way. And so there's a lot of foundation that has to be laid, and that's what you did with me. However, every time I left a session with you, I felt hopeful. I felt inspired. I felt motivated to do the homework because you were giving me homework to do, right? You were giving me the tools that talk therapists, they don't give you those tools, you know? And so it was within a couple of months that I started feeling really good. And I was excited to come see you because I'm like, this is working. I'm going to keep going. It's challenging. It's tearful / emotional, but it's necessary. I encourage anybody who is struggling with childhood trauma, feelings of or lacking self-worth or lack of loving yourself, not thinking you're important, any negative, any of that, stress, anxiety, depression. When I first started coming to you, from the very first moment I sat across from you, no judgment. I never felt judged. I never felt less than. I only ever felt unconditional acceptance and love from you. Very safe place.
Thank you.
Anyway.
I want to get in here, my experience with Effexor.
Yes, I want to hear about it.
Brain zaps. Have I shared this with you? The brain zaps I would get?
Yes. They're real. Brain zaps are real.
Did you experience them?
With Cymbalta, yes, I did. Coming off of trying to taper off of Cymbalta, yes.
Do you experience it anymore?
I feel like the last 10 months has been a brain zap.
One big brain zap.
It's one big giant brain zap.
I feel like I would get a brain zap every 30 seconds or so.
Okay, no, I didn't have that experience. It wasn't as frequent as you're describing.
Okay.
But
so
please explain.
When I went off Effexor, because again, I was just so tired of all the side effects, being numbed out, and you just don't feel your best. I don't know how to describe it. You're not, something's kind of suppressing you. And so I knew I wanted to get off. And so my doctor was like, well, we have to wean you off very slowly and very carefully. This is, not a drug that you can do quickly. Has to be slow. Well, just tapering it just the tiniest bit was hell. Like, it was hell. I was horrified because I thought, what? No. I can't do this for the next few years. Like, literally the process would have been a few years.
Oh, okay.
And I would get these brain zaps. So like every 30 seconds or so, it's like, and it was painful. And honestly, in moments of despair, I would just cry about it. I would literally just be sorrowful about the fact that I'm experiencing freaking brain zaps. And so I thought to myself, screw it. And again, I don't recommend this to anyone else. It's just what I did for me. I did cold turkey. Then at that point, it's like, I said to myself, I'm not going to do this for 2 years. So I went off for cold turkey, and I will say for a week, I was incapacitated. So again, I don't recommend this. I didn't work. I didn't do anything. I was incapacitated. Now, again, this should tell us a little something about these drugs. And I don't even think I was on a high dose. And then I finally felt like I could actually move. And so I actually remember even visiting a friend. But the brain zaps were real. And I think the brain zaps and feeling just kind of off was about 3 months, 3 to 4 months. But then the brain zaps finally stopped. And then I was free. So it was 3 to 4 tough months, but that was my journey. That's how it looked for me. And so when I hear someone goes on Effexor, I just shudder inside, because I think, I don't know if I'm kind of a rare individual in that I just have tons of drive. And I'm not saying that makes me better than anyone else. It's just who I am, my makeup. I just have a really strong work ethic and tons of drive. And I just think that not everyone has that kind of soul stamina that I have.
True. I agree.
To have made it through what I went through, to be free of it.
What did you experience physically? I mean, I know emotionally, mentally, how challenging it is, especially during that week when after you did it cold turkey. But how did it affect you physically?
I was incapacitated.
Well, when you say incapacitated,
dizzy, nauseous. It just was too painful to honestly exist. It was too painful to exist. So existing looked like literally just laying there. And I don't even think I could read. I might have been watching spiritual shows. Back then, YouTube and all that wasn't as prolific as it is now. So I had Oprah on Super Soul Sunday. I had definitely gotten some training so that I believed in myself enough to be able to do it. So I think that's the key too. I had gotten some coaching, so I believed in myself enough, and I had faith, so I could do it. I definitely wouldn't recommend if you're not in a place where you're prepared with that kind of support system.
Right.
The beliefs have to be there rather than to just, and I think that's why I could do it, because I had such a strong, I was practicing a strong mindset. I wasn't quite, now it's easy for me. My mindset and my lifestyle and how I do me is easy. So, there's some hope there for you, but, and it's been easy for quite some time for me, but back then I was practicing, so it wasn't easy yet. It was talk about the true test. I almost feel like I'm gonna compare it to the story of Jesus in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights being tempted by the devil. Like, it literally, honestly, it feels like it could be a true comparison with how hellish.
I believe that's, yeah, I agree.
I want to use strong language like that because it was hell.
Yes.
It was hell.
Absolutely. It deserves the strong language and then some. And anybody who has been in our shoes knows exactly what we're talking about. And I can't imagine there's one person who would disagree. If you've ever attempted to stop taking your medication or, taper off of it the wrong way, it's hellish. Or taking something that's not what you should be taking, it's hellish. And something just you're talking about Effexor. And when I came off of Effexor, it was a struggle, but not anything compared to the struggle when I started tapering off Cymbalta.
Mm.
And with Cymbalta, like I said, even if I took my dose 2 hours later than normal, because I'm forgetful. I'm getting up there. I forget things. I get busy and I go, oh, my face is starting to feel numb. I forgot to take my medicine an hour and a half ago. And I would feel
Face
triggered.
starts to feel numb.
Yeah, that quickly. I would get a really intense headache. And so I started feeling the effects within hours of not taking it when I should or as I had been. That's how quickly I started feeling the effects. There are detox facilities who specifically offer detox, a live-in where you go and stay there for over a month, a minimum of a month, where they help you taper off of this drug. That's how addictive it is, and how hard it is to do on your own.
I'm glad you shared that. And
yeah, and insurance
I'm
doesn't.
glad they have places like that to help people.
If you have $20-something thousand laying around, which most people don't, I'm sorry, that's what the price tag on it is. But what comes with that is support there with you all the time, somebody monitoring your medication, and like you said earlier, a lifestyle change when it comes to no alcohol, no drugs, eating right, exercise, practicing self-care. All that plays an important role in it. And here's another thing I want people to know, if they don't already, and this might go hand in hand with any type of anxiety or depressant that you're taking, that you're trying to come off of. As far as the thoughts of, I don't know how to put this eloquently, but the thoughts of suicide are very prevalent.
When you're going off?
Yeah. Or self-harm, or like not wanting to just go through another day. The feeling of hopelessness is
rough.
And if you don't have,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you don't have a support system in place,
don't do it.
Do not do it on your own. Do not do it on your own. It's scary.
Support system includes the mindset I was talking about, the belief system. It really does.
And or somebody like yourself, a coach who you can start the coaching process and you start building that foundation before you start trying to come off of a drug like that, or like Effexor or Cymbalta or whatever other type of addictive type anxiety or depression medication you take. Doing it without a support system, whether it be a loved one who gets it, who says, call on me whenever you need to, along with somebody who's giving you the tools to help you navigate through that tough process, and somebody who you can reach out to, and that person who can remind you and say, hey, this is what you need to do. I've given you these tools. But doing it alone, like I said, it took me on the fourth time. And it wasn't until the fourth time that I was successful and I had started seeing you. And so I know that helps, but those are rough drugs. Rough drugs.
Thank you for being so vulnerable to share. I really hope that this reaches the people it needs to reach. Maybe that person that's toyed with taking a pill, or toyed with even getting coaching. And maybe it'll just be the nudge they needed. So thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. If it helps anybody, if it helps one person, then I've done my job. Creating an awareness is so important. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't know. So I'm hoping this will catch on, and that there is hope for people who have been in a rough spot when it comes to this type of medication, or even not on medication, but thinking, hey, I need to do some soul searching. I've got some bags to unpack.
Yeah. Life's a lot lighter now, isn't it? It's a lot lighter.
It is. I have a lot more patience and understanding and love for myself. And I've learned, just on a side note, I've learned to set boundaries, healthy boundaries, not over the top, ridiculous unexpectations of myself or others, but healthy boundaries that allow me to maintain my values, which I was able to rediscover when I started seeing you. My values were just out the window. And so having those healthy boundaries in our lives allows us to honor ourselves and be true to ourselves and love ourselves. We need to love ourselves more than anybody else loves us. We deserve it.
You sound like someone who's gone through this. Grasp your value and say no.
Yes, I'm an overgiver. I was an overgiver.
I was.
No more. I was, oh my gosh, yes.
But that's another topic. I'm going to have to invite you back to talk about this one, because this one's amazing too.
It is.